I tell you how to unfuck it. You gotta go back to the old Republic.
Disagree.
Get this shit out of here.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be reacting to a react video reacting to the weird news and the realm of Star Wars. Don't know exactly what Asmongold's reacting to in this video, but yes, we're going to be reacting to Asmongold, who's reacting to news about Star Wars. And judging by the thumbnail, doesn't exactly look too good. So it's going to be react to react. Never really done something like this before, but I happen to see Asmongold's content quite often, and I think it's pretty entertaining. So let's see what his thoughts on Star Wars are. The title of the video is Star Wars is Star Wars Uncooked. I don't know how you can uncook something. It's like, can you unfuck something? I don't know how that works, but I guess we'll find out.
So it's looking like Kathleen Kennedy is done. We'll see what happens. I feel like they've wasted enough money on Star Wars to where she getting cooked. Let's find out.
A couple of hundred years ago, when the height of military technology...
Oh, it's a critical drinker video. Those guys are very critical of Kathleen Kennedy, and I think in most cases rightfully so. But it's interesting to see Asmongold. He's like he's jumping into the world of like Star Wars gossip and the fandom now.
Technology was the flintlock musket. Part of the process for loading it involved pulling the hammer back to the halfway point, known as the half-cocked position, so that you'd have enough room to fill the primer pan with gunpowder. It was also useful as a kind of basic safety catch, because the hammer wouldn't engage from the half-cocked position, no matter how hard you pulled the trigger. Unfortunately, sometimes in the heat of battle, soldiers would get a bit ahead of themselves and forget to pull the hammer back all the way, so that when they actually tried to shoot at the end...
Yeah, that's crazy. So Asmongold stole my spot. Sort of, or his chat's on my spot. I'm usually in the bottom. I don't know how this is oriented. I'm usually in the bottom right. So I guess today I'll be on top. That just sounds weird.
The enemy, the safety would stay engaged and the gun wouldn't fire. Hence the expression, going off half-cocked. I.e., rushing into something without being properly prepared with disastrous consequences. I bring this up because it seems particularly relevant to the absolute shit show surrounding Kathleen Kennedy and the eternal question of when, how, and indeed if she'll ever leave her office at Lucasfilm.
Well, it seems pretty fucking obvious that a lot of the Star Wars things that they're doing aren't very popular, right? That Acolyte thing isn't popular. The movie trilogy wasn't very popular. People didn't really like it. Now, it might have made money. But I think that like making money in the short term but damaging the brand in the long term is a big problem.
100% true, right? Like the sequels did do really well, billions of dollars. The Acolyte didn't do well though. The Acolyte lost a fuck ton of money. So, I mean, I don't know if he knows that. I don't know if he's seen the Acolyte. I think he's seen the clip of the Power of the Many or whatever. Terrible, terrible. But it's interesting to see a kind of outside perspective, and this is good. Videos like this are good for Star Wars because they're taking it outside the realm of the likes of me and you, right? Me and you are the people who watch Star Wars all the time. We have the most harsh opinion at times, probably. So it's like he's taking that information and he's relaying it to like a more general public, and that's important.
Because like if you make money the first time but it's bad product, the chances of you making money the second time, even if it's a good product, are way lower. Totally
true. The Last Jedi into Solo, right? And the Acolyte into the Skeleton Crew. Solo bombed because of the Last Jedi, not because it was a bad movie. And the Skeleton Crew bombed because the Acolyte was fucking terrible too. It's the same thing. And I talked about this in a video before. In my opinion, Star Wars kind of had like S tier credit. And as they've seemingly put out these projects that are not well thought out, and they're just not good storytelling, filled with strange like hires by way of the writers and the directors and some of the actors. It's like decreased the credit line of Star Wars, and Star Wars went from being like top tier credit to now they're like A tier or a B tier. Went from S down to B, right? And that's not good, because regaining the confidence of the fans, especially the casual viewer, right? You have to think about it. We live in a day and age where things are really expensive. People don't have time or money to go to the movies like they used to. People are working more than they've ever worked in a lot of cases, and they're earning less in terms of like the inflation that's going on. So when people go see a movie, right, they're going to make an informed decision on how do I want to. So in some places, a movie ticket's $25, and people are going to wonder, what movie am I going to take my family of 4 to see? Is it going to be Star Wars that's been consistently ass in a lot of cases? Well, not maybe consistently ass across all projects, but their main films and the main TV shows haven't been that great. So people are going to go, am I going to take my family of 4 to spend, $200 between movie tickets and a few things of popcorn to go see Star Wars? Or am I going to go take them to see, for example, the new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson? Like, Star Wars is losing ground in terms of their brand prestige and their staying power. It's very, very, very not good.
That's the issue. There's a ripple effect.
Never.
A few days ago, when Puck News broke the story about her plans to step down at the end of the year, it was picked up by every major news outlet and YouTube channel with even a vague interest in Star Wars, including yours truly.
Yeah.
Oh, come on! Yeah, we'd heard plenty of rumors like this before, but this was the first time that it felt real.
And for my reaction, you can look and click right here. You like that, right?
And plausible. Kennedy was old as fuck by this point. She'd been at Lucasfilm for what felt like half my lifetime, and she'd presided over a disastrous series of critical and commercial failures and embarrassments that had left the company with no more assets to exploit.
Well,
I mean, that chart is crazy. Look at that. It's not good, man. Rogue One is amazing, by the way, but the marketing for that wasn't good.
and you can see, right, is that it just went down. Like, The Force Awakens was super popular, and then, a lot less people watched if you're having a fall off like this, I think that there's probably a reason for it. Rogue One was good? Yeah, it was. I watched that with my mom.
It was pretty widely known that just like a gambler on a losing streak with nothing but the shirt on his back, she'd been holding out for a big win to finish up her tenure.
Yeah. That's the Acolyte.
Let's be real here. I don't think there's any big wins in Star Wars future, at least in the short
The Acolyte, that's a good one.
term. And if they're ever going to happen, it certainly won't be because of you, sweetheart.
Oh.
But hey, Andor Season 2 is on the
shenanigans.
way, and while it'll probably be watched by an audience of literally hundreds, it'll at least give her the critical success she could use to justify her exit on a high. All of this is to say that it really felt like the time was right for her to go, maybe announcing her departure at Star Wars Celebration in April, and spending the rest of the year collecting pointless awards and prepping her successor to take over. That is, until Puck News broke the story ahead of schedule, forcing her to do an interview with Deadline where she, clarified the situation? Quote, "The truth is, and I want to just say loud and clear, I am not retiring.
Dude, we, as Star Wars fans, kind of took a big L, right? Like, I'm a little reluctant that Kathy's leaving just because I don't want them to rush into the successor. But with that being said, I think they have someone else in mind. My biggest concern was, are the people who forced these decisions, was it really Kathy, or was it some corporate, suit and ties, guys in the back room, girls in the back room, interest in making these decisions? That's my only reservation, because Kathy has such a prolific resume up until the Disney takeover. So it just makes me wonder sometimes, was it really her decision making, or was it someone else? Probably still Kathy in this case, but still. Saying you're never going to retire from movies is weird. It's kind of like, and two, it's kind of like Kathleen Kennedy turned into Palpatine. It's like she's pulling a Palpatine move, like somehow Kathy returned. I get it, Asmon. I'm perplexed
Now,
too, bro.
if you were coping, you would say that maybe she's not retiring, but she's still going to leave the company.
will never retire
That's what
from
I would
movies.
say, right?
I will
Who
die
knows?
making movies. That is the first thing that's important to say. I am not retiring.
Uh-oh.
Right.
It's actually kind of funny reading this now because you can tell how angry she is that she's having to defend her own career now.
Yeah, of
The
course.
passive-aggressive attitude is practically dripping off the page. It's like a kid that's been told to eat their vegetables one time too many, has a complete meltdown and screams, "You know what? I'm never eating food again, ever!" I also like this question where the interviewer asks her about the chaos surrounding her possible departure. Chaos? There's never been any chaos because we know exactly what the plan is.
I don't believe that they know what the plan is. And I think they haven't really instilled any confidence in me or any of the fans for us to really believe anything they say in terms of planning, because everything gets canceled. We don't know who Rey's lineage belongs to. We don't know who she is. The story changes 100 times. The movies change 100 times. The shows get canceled 100 times. So no one really trusts the level of trust that you have right now amongst a normal fan or even someone who's a little more interested like me. It's not high. I wouldn't say it's super low, but it's definitely less than average.
Really?
Man.
You know, that's kind of ironic.
Well, they do know what the plan is. The plan is to make Star Wars shitty. They've been executing that plan for a while.
Debatable. Rogue One, Clone Wars Season 7. I thought Solo was good. I think The Force Awakens is actually good. I know I'm going to get shit for it. I think The Force Awakens is a good movie. Just the last two movies are not good. And The Last Jedi, for what it's worth, is beautiful. And in terms of cinematography, it's just the story needs some serious fixing. I thought Ahsoka was really good. I thought Skeleton Crew was really good. I thought The Bad Batch was fantastic. So I wouldn't say they've made it shitty. It's just the problem is the projects that are most important and have the heaviest weight on the canon are the ones that messed up the most. The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker, and The Acolyte all have the heaviest weight on canon. They all have the heaviest weight in terms of like a referendum on George Lucas's Star Wars. They have the heaviest weight on where the canon can go, changing the rules of the Force in a sense, changing the importance of Anakin, changing the importance of Anakin being the chosen one and bringing balance. Those movies hold the most weight as it relates to those impactful 6 amazing historic films. That's the problem. That's the big problem. Those movies sucked. They spent the most money on those projects, and they bungled all 3 of them. And The Force Awakens gets tied in because it's like they're all holding hands. But The Force Awakens is actually not a bad introduction to a new sequel trilogy.
Make it as cringe as possible. Take away any vestige of masculinity and replace it with some weird androgynous, like, current culture vibe that nobody likes.
Last Jedi, good example. Admiral Holdo. They made Admiral Holdo a general, but she's wearing a dress and has her hair done up for the salon. And they made Poe Dameron practically like, they just made him a moron, if we're being honest.
So yeah, actually, I think that they have had a strategy. It's just not a good strategy. It's a bad strategy.
The Force is female. That's the strategy. They just executed it
Your
terribly.
entire tenure at Lucasfilm has been nothing but chaos from start to finish. In fact, it's one of the many reasons you've run that studio into the ground. You had absolutely no plans for Star Wars beyond...
Put a chick in it, make her gay!
Nope, there it
You
is.
stumbled drunkenly from lucky success to failure to
Obligatory.
even bigger failure with no idea of how to fix it and no understanding of what you were even doing wrong, and you stuck your fingers in your ears and refused to listen when anyone tried to help you. Oh, just as a little side note to that, by the way, I can tell you with a high degree of confidence that Kevin Feige wasn't just brought in to make a single Star Wars movie a few years ago. He actually came in with a fully comprehensive 5-year plan to unfuck the franchise and get it back.
They got it. They want to unfuck it. I tell you how to unfuck it. You got to go back to the old Republic.
Disagree.
Get this shit out of here. Completely redo it. Like, go back to, like, the old days. Like, get out of the context of Emperor Palpatine, fucking the Skywalkers, all of that. Fucking get rid of everything. And go and make the old Star Wars and make it, like, some fucking medieval... Because, like, the thing is that... I mean, George Lucas even talked about this, right? Where it was, like, basically a medieval tale told in a fantasy... in like, a sci-fi setting. So why don't we go back to that? Just go back to doing that instead. Make it great again. Yeah, exactly. And so you have so much content that comes out of that and things that the fans like, then how are you not doing that? And also it frees you up out of a lot of, and this is another problem that like the current Star Wars continuity timeline has. And the problem is that there are so many established realities, like the rule of 2. You have the Skywalkers, you have, like Emperor Palpatine. Like there are so many defined variables that it becomes increasingly harder to be creative inside of that space because there's more and more context that's being added onto it, right? The way that you solve that is you simply go to a different time period and write a different story. That's my opinion. Go to a totally different fucking story, because they've written themselves into a corner with this bullshit. Just like, wow, yeah, exactly. Or forward. I think that going backwards in time would be more interesting, personally, and I think that they have a lot more content for that. And I think that, yeah, I mean, because they already have written all of that out. I mean, I know they wrote some of the stuff like about like Luke Skywalker starting like a, you know, an academy and shit like that. Apparently, I don't know if that's still canon or not. But I just think that's what they should do. And so like that they should do the Old Republic, like Darth Revan, like shit like that. Yeah, people love him, and so it's not canon anymore. Okay, yeah. And so that's what they should focus on for Star Wars. This bullshit about like Skywalkers and like everything like that's lame. Like we've done that. Like, let's move past that.
On track.
So I didn't want to say anything. I wanted to let Asmon finish his whole spiel and his whole point. And Asmon, this is why you're wrong, in a sense. You're right in that they've written themselves into a corner. They have to fix that first. The reason they have to fix that first is because if they haven't learned their lesson, if they haven't learned how to fix their mistakes in the context of this timeline, right around the Death Star blowing up, right around the Rebels and Palpatine, if they can't fix that and they can't acknowledge how they screwed it up, if they go back to the Old Republic, they're going to screw up again, and they're going to ruin, you know, hundreds of novels, comics, games, lore. They're going to ruin it all. They're going to ruin the character of Revan. They're going to ruin the character of Malgus. They're going to ruin the Satil Shan story. They're going to ruin the Theron Shan story. They're going to ruin so many things. They're going to ruin the ancient beginnings of the Jedi with Lenore Brock, right? That's a really good story if you guys haven't seen it. Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void. They're going to mess up all these things. And where I think something you have to consider is that you referenced, and Asmongold references, the Luke Skywalker New Jedi Academy. There are tons of books after the Battle of Yavin, right? There are tons of books. There's even a comic series that I think extends out about 100 years after the Battle of Yavin with Cade Skywalker, a descendant of the Skywalker lineage. So there's a ton of source material, but they just have to get it right. So they have to like unfuck the sequels first. Now, I don't know if you can really unfuck the sequels because like he said, they've written it into a corner, but they have to figure out how to fix this before they go to another time period. I don't trust them touching another time period of Star Wars. The thing that messes up this period of Star Wars now with the Palpatine and the Darth Vader thing is that they bring Palpatine back, and the way that he dies, the way the last battle takes place, there's so much finality in it, right? It's like when Episode 6 ends and Darth Vader is turned back to the good side and Palpatine is dead, there's still a lot of, well, what happens to Luke after? How does he bring back the Jedi Order, right? There are a lot of unknowns. What happens to this fractured government? What happens to the rebels? What happens to the remnants of the Empire, right? There's a ton of questions to be asked. And you can answer that. Like, you can build a whole new galaxy, right? So I guess my point is that there's a lot of content to be made afterwards. There's still a lot of content to be made within. There's still a lot of stories. I'd love to see more Bad Batch, stuff like that. I get what you're saying, but I don't trust them moving forward into the Old Republic until they can figure out how to do the sequels and how to fix the sequels. I guess if you want to say fix, right? With maybe some new sequel movies. Even if that means they have to make another Rey movie, but the Rey movie's fantastic, I'm all for it. But they have to learn how to fix their mistakes and not repeat the same mistakes before they touch material that's really legendary in the hearts of many, many fans, especially when it comes to Malgus, Revan, Vitiate, Satil Shan, Theron Shan, all these characters. They got to learn how to get it right first.
And was promptly told to piss off by Kathleen Kennedy before he'd even finished his presentation, which is why there's been no further talk about collaborating with each other.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
And also, like, here's another thing, is that...
Dude, learning to take your L's in life and learning to admit you're wrong is a big thing. I'm not the best at admitting when I'm wrong and stuff like that. But if she threw Kevin Feige out the door because maybe he said, hey, your shit sucked and this is a better idea, someone like that should not be running Star Wars, right? And it just shouldn't be the case. should be receptive to change, especially if it's good change and they're just fixing some mistakes you made.
When you keep it inside of the same timeline, people are going to keep comparing it to the original 3 movies and to the prequels and to the other movies. And so, like, you constantly have that comparison going on.
I think everything you make in Star Wars is going to be compared to top tier Star Wars.
And I think that, like, that...
And that's the curse of Star Wars, but it's a high bar, so it should be treated sacred.
That comparison, like, think about how much that comparison and the shadow of Lord of the Rings was, in my opinion, oppressive on the development and the production of The Hobbit. Like, I think The Hobbit trying to be Lord of the Rings 2 was a huge mistake. Huge, colossal mistake. It would have been way better if it was a 2-part movie. You know, they were going to have Guillermo del Toro direct it instead. Honestly, I think that would have been better. But again, it's being directed in the context of Lord of the Rings. And again, and another big reason, right, is like The Hobbit was written, Tolkien wrote
shit about Lord
for
of the
his
Rings
children, right? Whereas Lord of the Rings was written more for adults, and it was more of an exposition on like language and a couple of other things, right? And so it shouldn't have even been the same vibe to begin with. Only 1 movie was enough. I think probably 2 would have been better, but like, I mean, you know, again, maybe 1 would have been fine. Either way, my point is that you need to get out from under the shadow of this whole like current year Star Wars.
The shadow of George Lucas and the shadow of the first 6 films will always loom large, and it's not necessarily a bad shadow. It's just the original content, and it's supposed to be like, at this point, when George Lucas made Star Wars, right, A New Hope was like the soil. Well, I mean, the things he drew inspiration from was like the soil. But for the purpose of this argument, I'll say A New Hope is like the soil. The Empire Strikes Back is like the fertilizer. And the seeds that sprout is the Return of the Jedi, right? Those 3 films led to the blooming that was everything out of Star Wars. The sequel trilogy, the books, the comics. So it's like a garden adjacent to your new house. You brought a new property and you have a beautiful garden next door. You want to be able to replicate that. So it's not necessarily a shadow, but it's a standard by which you should live by, because it replicates the care that went into it, the time, maybe a little bit of good weather, right? But you shouldn't just turn your back on it because, you know, you're trying out some new method and it's completely not working. Maybe you should try to find ways to incorporate the old methods that made things successful. So I don't really see it as much as a shadow. It's a shadow when you're trying to compete. It's not a shadow when you're trying to just make something just as fun and good. Challenge yourself.
And you do that by going back to the Old Republic. That's what I think they should do.
No.
See, there's no
Solves
love
like
lost
10
there.
problems.
I also like how she tries to justify the endless stream of projects that get announced and then go nowhere. It's very hard for anything to happen within Star Wars without some aspect of it becoming public before you even want it to become public. So I guess managing the message in some way is also quite a challenge because, of course, not every single thing we put in development we're gonna make.
Yeah, son of a Hey, Ron!
Motherfucker, you're the one who announces all these phantom projects, you absolute moron. It's not like they're getting surreptitiously leaked by some deep cover insider here. You're choosing to make official announcements at major events about projects that have all the detail and planning of a couple of sentences scrawled on the back of a beer mat. Of course people are going to assume that they're going to get made when the studio themselves make the announcement. Man, it seems like us YouTubers aren't the only ones to go off half-cocked. But it's the next paragraph that's really important, so pay attention, 007. What's happening at Lucasfilm is I have been talking for quite some time with both Bob and Alan about what eventual succession might look like. We have an amazing bench of people here, and we have every intention of making an announcement months or a year down the roads. Interesting. On the one hand, she claims that she's not retiring from movie making, but on the other, she admits that she's been talking about succession for ages.
Yeah,
and that
here's probably what's going on. Is that they're probably thinking about replacing her because of all the weird PR that she's gotten. The fact that the Star Wars IP is not really very well liked. I think she's done damage to the IP. So if she retires
I agree with that.
and she leaves Lucasfilm and she doesn't do Star Wars anymore, that doesn't mean she's not going to do movies anymore.
I think Kathleen is legitimately ready to retire. I think she leaves on her own terms whenever she feels like. And I think she just doesn't like the fact that so many people were celebrating that she was leaving. But I mean, that's what happens when, you do things that people don't like. They celebrate your departure. And that's life. You can't force everyone to like you, especially when you've done a lot of unpopular things.
So, like, it's very true that it's very possible that both things can be true. Like, she could not be retiring, but she could be leaving the company. Because it's not like, the thing is that these studios are not stupid, especially like after they start losing money, right? Like, they see what's happening. They know what's going on.
She'll make the announcement months or a year before it actually happens. Like at Star Wars Celebration, with the intention of stepping down by the end of 2025, you mean? And here's the kicker. 2 final questions. Will you step out as Lucasfilm boss this year? We really don't know at this stage. There's so much going on, Mike. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Right.
I don't know is probably, that's
So
like
corny.
a very high probability. Like, nobody says I don't know about stepping down for a major position like that. I mean, really, like, saying I don't know is huge. Am I crazy for thinking that? That's more of a yes? Yeah, I feel like that's it. She's trying to save face? Yeah, for
What's the
thinking.
context of that quote?
And probability.
Let's see.
Stage. There's so
Will you step out as Lucasfilm? We really don't know. I don't know what that means. I think Lucasfilm looks really stupid, and I think Disney looks really stupid for letting her say, I don't know. I don't know is a sign of incompetence for an interview, right? This is an interview that you prepared for. So saying I don't know to the most important question in the interview, bad preparation, bad PR.
so much going.
Huge.
It's so funny watching someone
Yeah,
trying
exactly.
to deny a leak like this on the surface while also having to tacitly acknowledge that everything about it is actually true. Again, like an angry child forced
Yeah.
to do something against their will but too proud to actually give in, what you get instead is, fine, I'll do it, but not because you told me to. And you can tell how insecure
Well,
she
the
is.
reason why is because it probably came out in a way that they weren't ready
Not a
to
good attention
release
span.
and have a press release and a press plan for it. So it probably caused the stock to go down and it caused investors to worry. So now they have to play defense because they basically had their plan leaked ahead of time before they had it completely finished.
To debunk Asmon's theory, it's because they're fucking pissed, or Kathy's pissed that people are excited that she's leaving. And she didn't expect there to be this outright celebration from people who are moderate. You expect the people who are, very anti-Kathy, anti-Disney, but I don't think she expected so many news publications to pick it up and cite the fact that Star Wars has not been very good recently. And by recently, I mean since the acquisition.
So that probably is what happened.
About this because she keeps hammering this point home again and again throughout the
probably went up. I
interview.
don't know.
We are in lockstep as to what that's going to be, and I am continuing. I am producing the Mandalorian movie right now, and I'm also producing Sean Levy's movie, which is after that. So I'm continuing to stay at Lucasfilm and looking very thoughtfully with Bob and Alan as to who's stepping in. So that is all underway, and we have every right to make that announcement when
Yeah.
we want to make it. Yeah, sure, we get it, Kathy. This is totally your decision, and everyone else marches in lockstep with what you say. You're very powerful and important. Go collect another
Right.
award or something. Now, if you add all of this word salad bullshit together, what you end up with is someone reluctantly forced to admit that the rumours are indeed true, while also trying to spin it into something more flattering to her own ego and public image.
Yeah, of course.
Ultimately, though, I can see 2 possible outcomes
She's not
for
trying to
this.
retire all
The
the
first
way.
is the best case scenario, where she was and still is planning to step down at the end of
Yeah.
this year, but wanted to break the news herself at some high-profile event, and is now pissed off that the announcement leaked in a way that she can't control the narrative, so she's
Exactly.
Very plausible.
Exactly. Of course.
But I also think she wants to retire off of like The Mandalorian. Or a project that's successful. So if The Mandalorian scores a big hit, she's going to be like, all right, guys, I'm riding off into the sunset. We did an amazing job. I was amazing in Star Wars. And I hope you remember me for this amazing movie we just made.
That would make sense.
forced to do damage control to shore up the illusion that all of this is totally happening on her terms. Basically, she wants to go out with the best possible news coverage, and that's under threat now, so she has to act. The worst case scenario, on the other hand, is that she now decides to dig her heels in and stay on at Lucasfilm for as long as humanly possible out of pure spite and malice.
Palpatine, bro.
And honestly, I wouldn't like to take
She's
bets
immortal.
on which one's most likely. It really takes a special kind of person to stay on for years in a position where they know that almost everyone fucking hates them and wants them to leave, but it seems like Kathleen Kennedy might just be that person. And even if she does step down as Lucas...
Well, they've tried to like shift, and this is what's happened with a lot of types of franchises and media, is that they've tried to shift away from what their core audience is, and they've tried to shift more into having a general, broad audience of people. But the fact is that Star Wars is about guys with video game or like with laser swords and like laser guns shooting each other on spaceships with things called Death Stars. I'm sorry,
I guess,
but that's a male activity.
I think back to George Lucas when I hear comments like that, right? And what I think back to is George Lucas says that it's a family drama that's decorated in space battles and laser sword fights. And I think he's correct about that. And I think there's appeal on both ends. Some people are legitimately appealed to the family drama, and some people are appealed to Death Star blowing up Alderaan, or the space battles, or the lightsaber battles, and that's fine. But I think both groups of people wind up falling in love with something they didn't come for. So the person who came for the laser sword winds up appreciating a family drama. The people who came for the family drama wind up appreciating the awesomeness of the laser sword fights. Goes both ways.
Guys, that's guys. You do something like that, you're gonna have guys that are gonna come over and watch this. Not true? It is. It's fucking true. Absolutely fucking true. Go watch some Star Wars convention. Go look at what the fucking dynamic is. It's true. Guys.
It's bros.
Film president this year.
And that's not to say we're gatekeeping Star Wars from women. I think women are more than welcome. I love having women in the fandom. I love having a strong female character like Gina Carano. I love having a character like Sabine Wren. I love having a character like Bo-Katan. I love having Ahsoka Tano. So it's not just for guys. It's for, like, Star Wars is for everyone. But I think there is like a subliminal appeal in action scenes and fights that appeal a little bit more to young men or men in general, or boys growing up too.
There's still the ominous threat of her presence lingering over the franchise for years to come through her involvement with multiple films and TV shows as a direct producer. So even when you hand the reins to a Lucasfilm protege, it sure sounds like you're going to be in that world for 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Fair? I don't know if I'm going to say that, but yeah, it's possible. At the end of the day, I'm nothing but a humble YouTuber. But if I could offer a bit of career advice to Kathy herself, I'd like to end this video with the words of Oliver Cromwell. You have sat too long for any good that you have been doing lately. Depart, I say, and let us have done with you. In the name of God, go. Anyway, that's all I've got for today.
Man.
Go away now.
Man's doing like
You
biblical
don't like
shit.
her at all. Yeah, in the game of God, step down. I feel like they need to just figure out this is a problem, all right? They need to figure out who their target audience is, what they're really trying to do, and do that. He hates her. I think a lot of people don't like her. You don't see male-dominated fandoms trying to hijack the narrative of the Kardashians or Desperate Housewives.
True.
There has been one example of that happening. My Little Pony.
I don't know where he's going with this. Let's keep going.
That shit. Monolith and their Nemesis system? No, I don't even know what the hell that is. And we don't talk about that disgrace. I'm saying, like, that's it, right? And a lot of the thing is that you're always going to have people that enjoy things that aren't really meant for them outside of the target audience. But I think that Star Wars has forgotten what its target audience is, and they focus too much on making content for a group of people that aren't interested in Star Wars. And the problem is that when you...
And that's kind of true. Like Andor, when you watch the Andor trailer, it's like sophisticated, this, that. Dude, the Hollywood elite, you know, super rich, snobby people, maybe the person who's writing a script for an independent documentary at a Starbucks is not going to want to watch Star Wars. Likewise, the Acolyte, who's the Acolyte made for? Like, I don't even know who it's made for. I just feel like it was just a political statement. So this is 100% right. Asmongold is 100% right. Target your audience. I'm not saying you have to target me, but make something for Star Wars fans.
You make content for people that aren't part of your target audience, you alienate your target audience. And that's the big issue.
As a Star Wars fan, sometimes I really do feel alienated.
That you run into.
Right.
And so, yeah, Halo show had the same problem. Yeah, it does. And let's see here. Best properties have a target audience that naturally collects other viewers in its wake. Yeah, exactly. It's like Warhammer 40K is like this. Like Warhammer 40K is mainly guys, but there's girls that like it too. Sure, definitely. Same as like Magic Gathering. Like we had like whenever we would do drafts back in the day at the card shop, like there'd be a couple of girls there, but it was mainly guys. Like it was like, 25 guys and 2 girls. Like usually 1 girl, right? And that's usually how it happens. And that's not like a bad thing. And like the same as like if you go to a spa or something like that, and it's a bunch of women getting like manicures and pedicures, there's usually a couple of guys there, right? But that's not the majority. And so if you make your content right, and you make your like your media or like whatever it is, makeup videos, exactly. Yeah, you've got James.
You have to like honor the fans that have been there for a long time. You have to honor the fans that have been there since the original trilogy. You have to especially honor the fans who were there from the end of the Return of the Jedi to the beginning of the Phantom Menace, because those fans truly kept Star Wars alive. You have to honor all those people, and you don't honor it by making slop. You just don't. That's not how it works. So I just don't know who the target audience is, and I don't know what they're trying to achieve with some of these projects. Some of these projects are really bad, and the projects that they needed to win, they lost all of them.
Charles is out there. You've got Jeffree Star for sure, but that's not the majority. And so that's it. Maybe in Austin? Yeah. No, people do that, especially a lot of businessmen get manicures so their hands look better when they do deals and shake hands with people. It's actually quite common. But the point is that that's not the target audience. That's not the majority. And that's really the point that I was trying to put out there, right? That's what I was trying to say.
I've never reacted to someone reacting to something else. It's kind of weird. It's like almost like Inception. But I had fun. Let me know if you liked these style of videos below. Let me know if you liked my commentary, and let me know if you think I'm spot on, or if Asmon's spot on, or maybe we're just both wrong, or maybe we're both right on a few things too. But the most important thing is I want to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. So sound off down below, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I want to grow the channel. I want to hang out more with you guys, and I want to make broader content, not just strictly theory videos and stuff like that. But I do have some cool theory videos on the way, so definitely stay tuned. Like, comment, subscribe. Remember to stay safe, and as always, may the Force be with you always. I'll catch you later, guys. Be safe.